Hello, I'm Brian Bayer, author of Flesh Rehearsal, Sinister Mix, Autumn Gothic, and several other books and novels. Recently, a friend, reader, and awesome book reviewer, Ricky from Ricky's Rockin' Reviews, tagged me on TikTok about the significance of basements in my fiction. And then he asked me if I had any basement stories of my own. I'd never really thought about that, and I told him that I would get back to him in a video. And I also told him that my response might get lengthy, but I'll try to keep this under 10 minutes because on TikTok, videos can only be up to 10 minutes in length. My first memory of a basement is being raped in one at age 4. Is that the significance of basements in my fiction? I have no idea. And I'm sure there are many people in 21st century America and all throughout the world in all prior centuries with far worse stories of sexual abuse than mine. But that is my first memory of a basement, being raped in one at age 4. And it happened a few times, actually. What happened was my mother's father, my grandfather Bill, died before I was born, so I never knew him. And then my grandmother remarried when I was 4. She married a man named Leland, and he had 2 mentally challenged teenage children, an 18-year-old daughter named Jean and a 16-year-old son named Lee. And Jean was slightly more mentally challenged than Lee, but Lee was significantly mentally challenged. He was also morbidly obese, so he was way bigger than me. Plus, he was 16 and I was 4. And they all moved into my grandmother's house, the grandmother to whom my mother was very close. So my mother would take my younger brother and me over there frequently so she could visit her mother. And Lee would take me down into the basement and rape me. Why didn't I tell anyone? Because I knew at age 4 that it would hurt my mother more than it hurt me. But I did get sick of it. So one day I grabbed a butcher's knife from my grandmother's kitchen and I took it with me down into the basement and brandished it. And I told Lee that if he ever touched me again, I would fucking kill him. And he believed me. And he never touched me again. And that was that. Anyway, fast forward 2 years. I'm 6 years old now. And my brother's 4. I'm in first grade, but he hasn't even started kindergarten yet. And one night he attacked me in my sleep. We'd been sharing a bedroom on the first floor at my parents' house. My parents had a nice finished basement, but my brother and I almost never went down there. My mother did laundry down there, and she and my father often watched TV in this huge family room down there in the basement, but my brother and I shared a bedroom on the first floor. And one night I was dead asleep, and he started screaming, "Give me back my fucking milk." And I opened my eyes, and the motherfucker is standing over me. And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And then he starts punching me in the fucking face, man, still screaming, "Give me back my fucking milk." And I'm like, "Mom, Dad, come and get this motherfucker." So they take him to the hospital, and it's discovered that he has what is called encephalitis. I had never even heard of it. It's an inflammation of the brain that makes your brain swell inside your skull, and it causes hallucinations. And he began having recurring bouts of encephalitis throughout the next few years of his childhood, and it kills some people and it causes permanent brain damage in some people. But he was fine. It just went away after a couple of years and stopped afflicting him. And now he's this genius who has owned his own restaurant for the past 27 years. But that's not all he does. I mean, my brother is fucking super smart. I could write volumes of books about my crazy, intelligent brother. But yeah, he has owned Mickey's Pizza in Beckley, West Virginia since 1997. He took over that restaurant when he was 22. Anyway, fast forward another year. Now I'm 7 years old and my younger brother's 5. So I'm in second grade and he's a kindergartner. And one day we get off the school bus and our house is burned to the fucking ground. Our parents were at work and we had been at school. At 7 years of age, I was my younger brother's babysitter. At 7 years of age, I was basically a young adult. And anyway, the driveway was long and it was full of fire trucks and cop cars, and the house was completely fucking gone. The house had been heated by a modern furnace, but my mom and dad also had this old-fashioned wood-burning / coal-burning stove down there in that family room in the basement, and the fire inspectors determined that the stove is what caused the fire. And my parents had insurance, so they built another house on the property, but we had to stay elsewhere while the house was being built. And after it was finished, as we were moving back in, they asked me if I wanted my own room, and I was like, fuck yeah, because A, I wanted to get away from my psycho younger brother, and B, who doesn't want their own room? So they gave me a room downstairs in the basement. Now, the basement was only partially submerged in the earth because the house was built split level into a hillside. But the room they gave me was in a corner of the basement that was completely submerged in the earth. So there were no windows. And when I turned the lights off, it was pitch black, and I fucking loved it, man. I loved sleeping that way. And you could take posters floor to the ceiling all the way around without any windows getting in your way. So I always had heavy metal posters on all the walls, floor to ceiling. And there were drop tiles for the ceiling, so I could hide drugs and money and guns and stuff up there, which was fucking awesome, man. But that was later, because when I first moved into the basement, I was only 7 years old. But later, when I became a drug dealer at age 12, that drop tiled ceiling definitely came in handy. Anyway, I started drinking when I was 11, and I was an alcoholic by age 12. And I became a drug dealer at age 12 to finance my addiction. And I had a few cousins who were members of the older cousins who were members of the Avengers Motorcycle Club. And they were all drug dealers. So they would sell me drugs for cheap, and then I'd turn around and sell cocaine in the 1980s for crazy profits, man. So I always had a lot of money. And a lot of the times, I'd be living in hotels with fake IDs. But when I wasn't living in hotels, I'd be staying at my parents' house in the basement. And there were 2 entrances, one on each side of the house into the basement, where the house was built split level into that hillside on the back. And I had keys to both doors, so I could come and go as I pleased at any time, day or night. At 12 years of age, my parents could not control me, and they knew that. They didn't even try. So when I was there, I had older friends in and out of the house all the time. And I always had older customers in and out of the house, and older girls in and out of the house. Sometimes there'd be girls going out one door of the basement while other girls were coming in through the other door. And of all the crazy, fucking countless, insane stories I could tell you about that basement, I'm going to tell you one that is memorable to me because of the viciousness with which a mother punched her daughter in the face down there in my old bedroom in that basement. I'd been out the night before with a girl named Alice and her friend Stephanie. I was 14 at the time, so I was too young to drive, but I had one of my older friends driving us around. And years later, Alice's friend Stephanie got her fucking head blown off with a shotgun by a member of the Avengers Motorcycle Club for cheating on him. But on this night that I'm talking about, Stephanie, I'm pretty sure was 14, like me. And anyway, Alice had to be home at midnight that night, so I had my friend drop Alice off at her mom's house. And Stephanie immediately turned to me and she was like, I don't have to be home tonight. Can I just stay with you? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we went back to whatever house party we had been at. And then I took Stephanie to my parents' basement around dawn. And then we passed out a little later. And then the doorbell rang upstairs. But we didn't hear that, of course, because we were passed out. And my parents were not home. But my brother was home, and he heard the doorbell. So he got up and opened the door. And it was Stephanie's mom and Alice standing on the front porch. After Stephanie had not come home the night before, her mom had gone to Alice and was like, where the fuck is Stephanie? She was with you last night and she never came home. And Alice was like, I don't know. The last time I saw her, she was with Brian. I just thought Brian was going to take her home. And my brother had no idea that Stephanie was there because his bedroom was upstairs and we were down in the basement. So he let them in. And they came downstairs and started pounding on my bedroom door. And there was music on because I always slept with music on. And Stephanie was like, oh my God, Brian, that's my mom. She's fucking crazy. You don't understand. I was like, whatever, man. Just go hide in the closet. Because I had this huge walk-in closet. And I get up and open the bedroom door. And Stephanie's mom's like, where's Stephanie? But I never even had a chance to answer, man. She fucking shoved me out of the way. Began looking around the room. And then she opened that closet door and found Stephanie and punched her in the face so fucking hard. She knocked her the fuck out. Then she grabbed her by the hair and dragged her out of the bedroom, man. And I turned to Alice and was like, God damn, was that necessary? But Alice was pissed. She was like, I can't believe you fucked Stephanie. Then she turned around and stormed out of the room. But yeah, Ricky, that's one of the countless basement stories I could tell you. And I hope that gave you some insight into the significance of basements in my fiction. Thanks a lot.